Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to Mohawk Motors. My name is Jason. As you can see, it's nighttime. This has been pretty much the only time I'm able to get out here and make some progress on this project, or really anything else that I need to get done recently. And my goal for tonight is to get a good start on the fuel system for this truck. I want to get the fuel tank dropped out of it, old sending unit out, and then all of our new sending unit fuel pump wiring installed in the tank, and optimistically get the tank back into the truck. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is just go get that tank out, and I'll bring you back once it's in here in the garage where you can actually see what I'm doing, and I'll tell you what we're going to do. All right, team. So, got the fuel tank out. And actually, I mean, it looks to be in pretty good shape. The brackets, however, there was one bolt in each of those brackets. There's supposed to be 4 bolts in each of those brackets. So, we're going to get that corrected when we put it back in there, because all we need is a fuel tank falling out of the truck. And I figure I'll show you guys what I pulled out of it. This is the electric pump that wasn't hooked up from a previous fuel system. A bunch of wiring, a whole bunch of rubber fuel line and worm clamps. So, I mean, Matt, we probably saved you a couple pounds in unneeded wiring and old pump and other things, getting them out of there. So now we're going to get this set up with the new stuff. So what we have is, this is the sending unit for an 87. And the reason we're using this is because it has the wires already through it for the fuel level sensor, as well as for a fuel pump. So it saves us drilling another hole through here. We also have, you know, feed, return, and vent. Now what we're going to do to get all this hooked up is I'm going to use these adapter fittings here, and these adapt a hard line, steel hard line, like these, to a -6 AN fitting. So we're going to get one on the send, one on the return, and then we're going to get our fuel pump installed in here just like a factory fuel pump. We'll undo the lock ring, take the old sending unit out, then stick our new assembly in, put the lock ring back on. Ta-da! She's working. The one difference that we'll have here is, instead of instead of the little push connect fuel level sensor wire on the original sending unit, we've got it in this connector here. We're not going to be using this connector. We're going to separate these 2 wires. And one is the power feed for the fuel pump. The other is for the fuel level sending sensor. So we'll just get those out of this connector, separate them, and then put our own connectors on there. All right, team, so I want to try to show you this as best I can without making this video forever long. So I've got my Walbro 450 pump, which will supply plenty of fuel. We didn't need that big a pump, but Matt wants to go to a bigger cam in the future. And you know how it goes. Once you get the taste for power, you want more and more and more. So this way he won't have to worry about the pump for a long time. Same pump I've used in my Army truck, other Matt's Suburban. Very good pump. Never had a problem with them. So he's got the pump wired in here. I basically just used the connector that comes with the pump, heat shrink soldered into the factory wires in the sending unit. So we've got ground power to the pump, and then all the way out. The pump actually grounds through the case and then also has a ground from the case to the frame. And my main power feed is the gray wire here, so I'll have to make sure I get that hooked up to the fuel pump relay. I've also got the fuel level sending unit. I didn't have to do anything to that. I just labeled it so I know which wire it is. Fuel level, that'll get hooked up to... I'll cut off the little push-on hat style connector, and I'll put on a set of male-female push lock connectors. So that'll be weatherproof, easy to undo and redo when if you ever install or uninstall the tank again. And then, so that brings me to getting the actual fittings on this thing for our fuel lines. So I'm starting with the feed pressure. I've got my 3/8 feed line here. Now I cut the little, they're flared for a rubber hose from the factory. We don't need that little flare, so I cut that off of the feed. I use my little deburring tool, deburr it all around the inside here, deburr it all around the outside, and now I've got my little adapter fitting. So this works, it's just a brass compression fitting, right? So you've got your nut side, slides over. And then you've got your little brass ferrule that slides on, like so. And then you've got the actual fitting that goes in, and then, you know, you screw it together. As that tightens down, it crushes that brass ferrule around the steel tube, making a liquid airtight seal between the aluminum nut and the steel tube, thus able to send pressurized fuel to the engine. I'll get that one done. Then I'll do the return side the same way with my other fitting. And then the vent, there's a rollover valve inside the tank. So the vent, I'm just gonna leave as vent. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm gonna use the old hose from the truck and just run this vent up, probably up along the filler neck on the tank, just to get it up as high as possible. Make sure, you know, if he's going over some bumps or rocky road or something like that, fuel isn't able to splash back out of there. So we'll get this one tight, we'll get this one done, we'll get the hose put on, and then we got to get it put back down into the tank. Really not complicated, fairly simple. We just got to find the right fittings. I think I still have the link for these fittings. If I do, I'll put that in the description for you. But if you just search AN to steel tube adapter, you should be able to find these in whatever size you need. All right, so sending unit fully prepped. It's ready to be dropped back into the tank. So I got my adapter fittings crimped on here. I got my breather vent crimped on. Now my lines, because of where the tank is in the truck, I will not be able to access this once I install the tank back into the truck. And I don't want to have to drop it out of the truck again. So the way I've done these in the past, the way I'm doing this one is I took my nice 20-foot section of AN line, and this is -6 AN line, and I just put a straight fitting on each end of that line, and then put those fittings onto my sending unit adapter fittings. So it's just a big loop right now, which is kind of nice because that'll keep it all sealed up until I get everything connected. And also, I haven't cut any of my hose, any of my line. So I'll still have as much length as I need to get it up to the engine, or excuse me, up to the fuel pressure regulator and then to the engine. And I'll have as much length as I need to return it back down to the sending unit again. It's really, I mean, the sending unit is almost right at the back wall of the cab. So it's not far to go under the cab and then up to the fuel rail to the firewall. I have plenty of line here, and this way I'm not worried about accidentally cutting it too short or anything like that. So when I go to put it back in the truck, I'll tuck this line up over the frame rail. I'll tuck this hose. Like I said, I'm going to attach this breather to the fill hoses. And then all I'll have to do is connect my wiring. So I'll get it put back into the tank. Usually it takes a little bit of wiggle finagling to get everything to fit back into the tank. Then we'll secure it with the new lock ring that came with the sending unit. There's a new O-ring already on the tank that came with the new sending unit. And then I'm probably going to call it a night after that. All right, everybody. Well, I'm calling it quits for the night. It's a little after 11 o'clock. We got a big day tomorrow, a lot going on, so I got to get some good sleep. But this tank sending unit assembly is ready to go back into the truck. Got the sending unit back in place, brand new seal on that, so we shouldn't have anything to worry about there. It's all new now, right? We've got the breather run up over by the fuel filler, so nice and high, shouldn't have any concerns there. And our AN line ready to be draped over the frame and routed in a way that won't encumber any problems, hot spots, nothing like that. We'll get it routed nice and safe so we don't have anything to worry about. This is how many now? Third or fourth system I've done this way. I've never had a problem. It's fairly simple. It's just a couple of specific fittings that you need to get and some general pieces. So yeah, not much else to say. Should be able to get back out here tomorrow evening, get it mounted up into the truck, get the fuel lines routed, start getting things connected to the engine and the fuel pressure regulator. And I'll bring you guys back when I get to that point. All right, everybody. Well, it's the next night. It's actually a beautiful night. It's very comfortable weather tonight. Got the tank all ready to be put back up in the truck. I went ahead and dug some correct bolts out of my bolt stash here so I can install it with all 8 bolts like it should have had in it. And we'll get it poked back up there in the truck where it goes. All secured, and start getting our wiring hooked up, plumbing pulled up to where I need it to be, and see how much progress we can make on this thing tonight. It's night, obviously, and I'm working by headlamp, so I'll do my best to just bring you back and show you as I make some progress.
3 days later.
Well, it's time to wrap this video up, team. I've been working away at the truck over the last few nights. Took a day with the family, and it was too dark at night to show you. And then this morning, I finished up the fuel system. So I want to show you how I've got everything wrapped up, and then that'll be it for this one. So underneath of here, you can see where we left off, right? We've got our AN lines coming down from the tank, running along the fuel rail. There's our fuel filter right there. Runs up along the frame rail. Right up here. Tucked up along the floorboard. And up to the firewall. So then you can see my fuel lines continue up along the floorboard, along the firewall. I've got a P-clamp, an insulated P-clamp back there. And then my feed comes up to the right side of the regulator. Return is on the bottom of the regulator. And then feed to the fuel rail comes out the left side of the regulator. Now, anytime I make a new fuel system like this, you know, I'm cutting the AN line, I'm putting new fittings on. I do the best I can to blow all of the debris and cutting stuff out of those lines. But just as an extra precaution to make sure I don't accidentally contaminate the fuel rails or the injectors, I like to manually engage the pump, you know, just connect it to battery power with the line to the fuel rail disconnected. And that's why there's gas on the ground. So I just run it long enough that I've fed fuel all the way through the system. I've flushed out any solids or particles or anything like that that may be in those fuel lines. Then I turn it off, get it hooked up to the fuel rail, turn it on again, set my fuel pressure. This engine requires about 58 psi of fuel pressure, and then it's good to go. So now that just leaves wiring. I got to get all the electrical stuff done, so the computer will turn the fuel pump on and off, not me. But it's a very simple fuel system. You can use this setup in almost anything. You just change the sending unit to fit whatever it is you're fitting. It's commonly available off-the-shelf parts. Matt had that regulator, but you can buy regulators just like that on Amazon any day of the week. The fuel line and fittings all came from Amazon. The pump, like, all of this stuff is readily available. So if Matt were ever to have any problems, it'd be very easy to get replacement parts and repair it. In my experience, choosing good quality parts right out of the gate and attention to detail when you're routing your hoses and lines makes all the difference in the world. Make sure that your lines aren't going to rub up against anything sharp. You know, keep in mind the whole truck vibrates when the engine is running, so you don't want anything to be able to chafe or rub through any of those lines. And use good clamps to secure them so they don't bounce and get into a drive shaft or get caught by something that bounces under the truck. And try to route them somewhere that they're out of the way. They're protected from road debris flying up and hitting them. So it's a proven method. I've put thousands and thousands of miles on systems just like this in various vehicles. Never had a problem. I'm sure if you can replicate it in whatever you're working on, you won't have a problem either. So that's it for this video, team. Fuel system is ready to go. We've got to get the electrical system and the exhaust hooked up. And I think we're going to be ready to start this thing. Got to fill it up with all the fluids too. But those are going to come in separate videos later on. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And until the next video, everybody, take care.